Oh my gosh. All I can say is that firmware updates are a magical thing. What's up, y'all? It's a Project Photography back with another video, and today, people, oh my gosh, I have some exciting news. Nikon just announced firmware 3.00 for the Nikon Z6 and Z7 and Z50. All the Z cameras got a new firmware update today, and man, is it crazy. I'll get to that part in a little bit where I tell you all about it, but what Nikon has done with the Z cameras is absolutely insane. Because just with firmware updates, they're able to transform these cameras into semi-okay cameras into just wow, it's a completely new camera. Literally, everything that Nikon has done with these cameras is incredible. And when you look at the Z cameras from when they first came out to now, they are two completely different cameras. If you took all the updates and changes from the Z6 and the Z7 from when it was first announced to now, you would say, wow, this is a completely new camera, and that's exactly what it is. And I feel like this is a big part in why they've been pushing off updating these cameras for not so long, but they've been pushing it off for a little while. And now with this firmware update, I am completely okay if they don't release one for another year or so, because these cameras improved everything that I've wanted to see improved, pretty much everything from when it was first announced till now. And man, Nikon, you have outdone yourselves. So like I said, Nikon has come out with a plethora of firmware updates since it was first announced, and I just want to go over just a quick preview or a quick list of what they've come out with, and just take a look at this. So their first major firmware update, they added eye autofocus, they improved low light autofocus, they improved autofocus continuous in general. They allowed for auto exposure when shooting continuous high. So now with that 12 or 9 frames per second continuous shooting, you get auto exposure and autofocus, which is amazing. They've added CF Express support. They've added raw video for a $200 firmware update, but nonetheless, it's raw video. And now with this 3.0 firmware update, they added animal eye autofocus tracking. And a lot of you Nikon users know that when you were doing the subject tracking, you would press the back button, focus on wherever it was at, but then you would have to press like the minus magnifying glass button for some reason to get out of tracking. And I don't understand why it was like that. I don't understand why they couldn't make something like 3D tracking. Like in my Nikon D3, it has 3D autofocus tracking like a normal person. So you just click the autofocus button, it tracks it, and then when you take your finger off, it just goes back to normal. I don't know why the Z6 and the Z7 didn't do that in the first place, but it just didn't. They fixed that finally. Now, when you click the in on button and then you take your hand off, it goes back to its original position. You don't have to they don't have to click the minus magnifying glass thing anymore. Finally. Thank you, Nikon. That is one of my biggest gripes about the Nikon Z cameras in the first place. The fact that it just didn't make any sense. I wasn't sure why they did that, but it's gone now, and finally it's like 3D tracking, which is what I've been wanting for such a long time. Honestly, that was the biggest thing I wanted to see in the next Z cameras, and probably one of the only reasons why I would have picked it up. Because I don't know if y'all know, but I shoot sports photography in addition to landscape photography, and I would pretty much use dynamic area AF, which is not a bad autofocus system, don't get me wrong, but just I like 3D tracking. Like it works so well on their pro Nikon DSLR cameras. I just would have loved to see that in the Nikon Z6, and when I saw that it didn't operate that well, it was kind of a disappointment. So they finally fixed that. Oh my gosh, they've been listening to us for the longest time. Oh, and also, along with all these other firmware updates that just blow me away, they've also added CF Express supports to all other CF Express cards, not just, I believe, Sony. Then there's just a bunch of random miscellaneous things that they improved to make these Z cameras so much better. But man, I don't know if y'all are excited about this firmware update as me, but they did something right. They listened to customers and they were able to create these firmware updates that made this camera something completely new, and I love that. Mirrorless technology, it hasn't had to do anything with a mirror box, so you can add these firmware updates that changes significantly. Back in the day, firmware updates to my D600 weren't anything crazy, they were just minor tweaks here and there. But with Z cameras, it makes it into a completely new beast. We saw this with the EOS R, where I think Canon had a 1.4 update that added pretty much insanely good subject tracking, kind of like how it is here, but it was much better. And man, like firmware updates for mirrorless cameras have definitely changed the game. And I think this is a great thing for photographers, but for Nikon themselves, they're gonna have to really innovate and really come out with something incredible to really get the Nikon community up and running and really make something that makes us want to buy it, because now they can't just add little tweaks here and there to create a new camera. Even if it's just incremental, they can't call a new camera because now we can just get it in the firmware updates. And this makes me really happy to see something like this. That means they're listening. That means they're willing to improve older generations. So even when the next Z cameras come out, the Z6, Z7 will hopefully be getting firmware improvements still. Fujifilm is very good at the firmware updates. They're notorious for being the firmware update kings. And hopefully Nikon can follow in their lead, take a few notes from Fuji here and there, and hopefully continue support for the Z6, Z7, Z, whatever the hell comes out, because this firmware update was exactly what the doctor ordered. And I'm gonna be making a video about the Nikon Z8 and what I want in that camera, and pretty much a tech specs wish list, if you might call it. And I'm really excited for the next Z camera to come out because I know for a fact it's gonna be incredible. It has to blow away the market essentially, because I saw Canon's EOS R5 and oh my gosh, that thing is insane. Sony has their amazing A7 R Mark IV. Nikon, y'all need to step up your game. And I'm really glad to see things like these firmware updates being included, because it just makes me feel appreciated as a customer, knowing that they're giving support to these cameras that honestly make it better. Like, if you just look at this line of specs, like, you could have said that this is a brand new camera from when it was released, and it really is. So I don't know, I'm really excited about this update. I'm ready to go out and test it. I'm ready to go out and test it in baseball, because that's mainly the sports that I shoot. So yeah, anyways guys, thank you for listening to my TED Talk, and thank you for watching my video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.